Welcome to Event 9 of the International Touring Car Championship. We've come 150 miles south of Paris to Magny Cours for the only French round of the year. Championship leader Manuel Reuter in the black Opel Calibra had a non-finish in the last round at the Nürburgring, his first of the year. With 10 races still to go, his lead has been eroded by Mercedes star Bernd Schneider. But here at Magny Cours, on pole position for the first time in ITC, is Alfa Romeo driver Nicola Larini. So far, his season has had a string of retirements. It's an all Alfa Romeo front row because Giancarlo Fisichella is alongside Larini. Back on row 3, Dario Franchitti from Scotland is 6th in the number 2 Mercedes. That's a disappointment for him because this is a very twisty circuit.
I think it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, I was following some of the slower cars in Friday sessions, and it was very difficult to even pass them, so I think we're in for a hard race.
So to the rolling start of the first race, round that very tight hairpin before the start on this French Grand Prix circuit, and the light is red as the field comes towards the start-finish line. They look up to the lights, now it goes green, the Alphas move, and it's Nicola Larini who has the lead from Giancarlo Fisichella. Alessandro Nannini and the other red and white Alpha tucking in on the inside, and 2 cars going wide. It's Tarquini's Alpha and Hans Stuck's Opel, both off and back onto the circuit once again, still side by side. But at the front, it's Alpha, Alpha, Alpha. It's Nicola Larini leading, Giancarlo Fisichella in second place, then Alessandro Nannini. Uwe Altsson is 4th, side by side for 5th place, and having contact there, I think, Schneider's Mercedes and JJ Leto hitting each other again as they go side by side into the Melbourne hairpin on this first lap. Dario Franchitti is down in 7th place with championship leader Manuel Reuter in 8th spot. We're looking at Jan Magnussen going past Jason Watt's Alpha there as we ride with Yannick Dalmas in his Opel. And meanwhile, Dario Franchitti has got past JJ Leto, so the Mercs are 5th and 6th. Still, Larini, Fisichella, Nannini and Altsson, the front 4. Then those 2 silver Mercedes. 7th is JJ Leto, 8th Stefano Modena. Down in 9th place, the championship leader Manuel Reuter. Klaus Ludwig is 10th. And there's Nicola Larini looking very smooth and secure in the red and white Alpha at the front. Fisichella in the all-red Alpha in 2nd place, and Larini's teammate Nannini in 3rd place. There's Dario Franchitti in that sensational-looking Mercedes, going through that tight first hairpin. The Mercedes, of course, have 2-wheel drive to the 4-wheel drive of the Alfa Romeos and the Opels, and that's quite a problem here, where there are tight hairpins, one before the start, one halfway round the circuit. That's the incident on the first corner of the first lap when both Tarquini and Stuck went off. We're seeing it again. And we were talking about 4-wheel drive. If you've got a 4-wheel drive racing car and you get it on the grass, you just keep your foot in and you get back onto the tarmac. Here's a replay of a collision we've just had at the Melbourne corner with Jan Magnussen's white Mercedes driving into the side of the black Mercedes of Bernd Mailander. They're both off, or certainly Magnussen's race is run. As we watch now that battle between the 2 Mercedes and JJ Leto. JJ Leto is challenging. Franchitti's alongside him. He's got the inside line. No, he couldn't quite make it. Franchitti in number 2, the Scot. Number 43 is JJ Leto, the Finn, through that tight hairpin onto the start-finish straight once more. It's Bernd Schneider 5th, it's Dario Franchitti 6th, it's JJ Leto 7th, but it's still 3 Alfa Romeos out in the front. Alfa Romeo dominating this race here at Magny Cours as we watch that Opel of JJ Leto trying to find a way past the 2 silver arrows, the 2 Mercedes. There's the leading trio with the yellow Opel in 4th place of Uwe Altsson. We've got a fastest lap for Giancarlo Fisichella. He's the man in 2nd place, the red Alfa number 14. There he is, a man with current Formula One experience. He's been doing Grand Prix racing this year for Minardi. And there is Leto getting past one of the Mercedes. He's past Dario Franchitti. He's between the 2 Mercedes now. And now he's alongside Schneider, but Schneider keeps the door shut. Schneider, Leto and Franchitti, that's the battle for 5th place. JJ Leto challenging, and look at that Mercedes weave under braking. He almost missed the apex of that left-hander, and quite clearly the Opels are handling better. Look at the black Opel of championship leader Manuel Reuter trying to get past Franchitti. JJ Leto's Opel trying to get past Bernd Schneider, and Leto is challenging, pushing Schneider very, very hard indeed as they go through that S-bend. They're alongside Schneider under great pressure in number 1 from Leto in 43, and Leto gets the inside. Schneider runs wide, and that's all that Leto needed. Schneider, a tiny mistake, which just got his left-hand wheels on the grass, and Leto is through. Leto 5th, Schneider 6th, Franchitti 7th, and in 8th place, number 7, the black Opel of Manuel Reuter. So Leto now crosses the start-finish line, well clear now of Schneider, Franchitti and Reuter. And we see it again, and Schneider just got a little bit wide coming out of that right-hander, and that was Leto's chance. Leto goes ahead, and now Franchitti in number 2 Mercedes, ahead of Schneider in number 1, and Schneider attacked by Reuter. Reuter on the inside of Schneider. They're wheel-to-wheel. Can Reuter stay there? Reuter does stay there and gets ahead. Reuter splits the 2 Mercedes. And now Stefano Modena is on Schneider's tail. And Stefano Modena on the inside of Schneider. They touch. Schneider's off. Schneider in the gravel. Modena nudged him. That's Norbert Haug of Mercedes in the middle, shaking his head. Bernd Schneider in the gravel, and I would think out of the race, trying to dig himself out. You see that Stefano Modena in his Alfa was definitely on the inside. Schneider once again ran wide on that left-hander. And there's now smoke. And that's Reuter. Manuel Reuter, championship leader, is well and truly on fire. He's still driving the car. As it comes now down towards us, you can see the flames under the bonnet, the cockpit full of smoke. He's got the door open to try and allow himself to see. He's slowly coming down these... No, and now he stops. He does stop, and the car is burning merrily. We see it again. It caught fire abruptly just as he was attacking Dario Franchitti's Mercedes. And look at the flames. The car almost going out of control. He fights for control behind Franchitti's car. It just instantly seemed to explode. I would think a major engine failure under the bonnet of the Opel Calibra. It's now in the gravel, and as Reuter watches, frustrated, hands on hips, the fire marshals are trying to put the fire out, but it is burning merrily. It's still burning hard as the leaders come past, with still Nicola Larini leading Giancarlo Fisichella. Those are the first 2 Alfas. In 3rd place, a little bit behind, is Alessandro Nannini's Alfa, as poor Manuel Reuter shakes his head. He'll want them to try and put that fire out. He wants a car to drive in the 2nd race this afternoon. But still more fire at the back of the Opel, and as Manuel Reuter directs operations, the fire extinguisher men then get into the back of the car, which is also on fire. And I would think the damage to Manuel Reuter's car is pretty terminal, and that is bad news for his championship points situation. Here, Larini and Fisichella fighting over the lead. Alessandro Nannini, there he is in 3rd place, just with a grandstand view of the whole thing. Uwe Altsson in the yellow Opel is in 4th place. Then in 5th place, it's JJ Leto. 6th, it's Dario Franchitti as they come into that tight hairpin onto the start-finish straight once more. This is the final lap. Neither Larini nor Fisichella have won a race this year. It's Nannini in 3rd place, who's best placed in the championship. Altsson and Leto in the Opels 4th and 5th. Dario Franchitti, the best placed Mercedes, in 6th place. And there are those 3 mighty Alfas, with Nicola Larini looking very well placed out in front. Fisichella drives for a different team, but he's still in an Alfa Romeo, would nevertheless like to win this race. There's Nannini in 3rd place, Altsson in 4th. Then comes the battle for 5th, with JJ Leto under real threat now from Dario Franchitti. Franchitti looks at the inside. Leto moves across on him under braking. How Leto didn't spin off in his efforts to block Franchitti then, I will never know. And Franchitti, clearly frustrated, has to let Leto go. There was contact between those two cars, but Leto got away with it. JJ Leto hangs on to his 5th place. And clearly the four-wheel drive Opel coping better with the twists and turns of Magny Cours than is the two-wheel drive Mercedes. Ahead of Leto in 4th place, it's Uwe Altzen in the yellow Opel. Ahead of them, the 3 Alfa Romeos with Larini leading Fisichella, but Nannini has closed up quite a bit as they come into this final section of the last lap. And Nannini alongside and passing Fisichella. Nannini goes second. Now Nannini comes down to the leader. Larini goes inside him. Nannini leads into the final corner of the final lap. Alessandro Nannini comes round the last hairpin. The checkered flag is waiting. Nannini wins. Larini is second. Fisichella is third. And that surely must have been some Alfa Romeo team orders. Nannini therefore leads on Alfa Romeo 1, 2, 3.
I must say thank you to Larini and to Fisichella for leaving the 1st position for the championship.
Franchitti's is best Mercedes in 6th place, Oliver Gavin is 12th, and while Schneider's car is cleaned up for race 2, let's check on the progress of the International Formula 3000 Championship. 2 drivers have dominated the early stages of the championship, Kenny Brack from Sweden and the German Jörg Müller with a win apiece. But it was all changed for round 3 at Enna. On pole was the Belgian ace Mark Goossens, who made a near-perfect start. Joint championship leaders Müller and Brack had given themselves plenty to do, as they'd started back in 5th and 8th positions. Hot on the heels of Goossens in the early stages was Ricardo Zonta, the young Brazilian, who came 3rd in the last round on the Pau street circuit. All the cars in this year's championship are identical Lolas with Judd engines. This keeps the racing close and puts the onus on driver skill. Or lack of it. Kenny Brack was doing all he could to keep hold of his 5th place, but it all went wrong at the chicane, and he retired on the spot. The French driver Cyril Savage was still to score a championship point. He was out of luck here as well. Zonta was trying all he knew to close the gap on Goossens, but he was having to cope with severe handling problems, which would soon put him out of contention. Müller was first to pounce and moved up to 2nd spot. So a fine lights-to-flag victory for Mark Goossens, but no points for Kenny Brack. Jörg Müller went on to 2nd in the next round at Hockenheim, but again his arch-rival Kenny Brack took the win, and so to Silverstone. And as the lights turned green, he was now just 3 points behind the German. This time it was Brack who led from the start. And even better for the Swede was the news that rival Müller was out on the 1st lap. Also in the walls was Olivier Tichy, who ended his race in the kitty litter. So Brack took his 3rd win at Silverstone. But while he celebrated, Müller went on to take revenge with a win at Spa in round 6, giving him a 1-point lead in the championship as the cars headed for the French circuit of Magny Cours. Here, Goossens led from the start, from Brack, Tichy and Müller. As Goossens pulled away, Müller was stuck in 4th place, behind his RSM Marco teammate. Then team orders prevailed. Tichy moved over, and Müller was up to 3rd. But the two of them were being caught by the impulsive Frenchman Jean-Philippe Belloc, who was keen to show well in front of his home crowd. A collision was inevitable. Tichy was punted off, and that allowed Laurent Redon into 4th place. Braque's Brazilian teammate Marcos Guerros spun off too. So at the flag, it was Goossen's 2nd win of the year. But by finishing 2nd ahead of Muller, Kenny Braque took the championship lead by 1 point with 2 rounds to go. We'll see how it all ended later in the series. The rolling start for race 2 at Magny Cours. With no Manuel Reuter, his car was completely destroyed by that fire in race 1. Bernd Schneider at the back as well, and the 3 Alfa Romeos at the front as the lights go green. Alessandro Nannini, Nicola Larini, Giancarlo Fisichella, the 3 Alfas at the front. Uwe Altsson, Dario Franchitti is 5th. Then it's JJ Leto in 6th place, attacking Franchitti yet again. And Franchitti's pushing Altsson very hard as they come streaming round that long right-hander at the start of the lap. And as they come onto the straight to go down to the hairpin, it's Alfa, Alfa, Alfa. Then it's the Opel versus the Mercedes, and Dario Franchitti trying down the inside of Uwe Altsson as they get on the brakes for the hairpin. Fisichella trying to go inside Larini as well. They're side by side, Fisichella and Larini, Franchitti and Altsson. Somehow they all get through, and Franchitti's done it, and JJ Leto follows him through as well. Franchitti and Leto moving past Altsson as they come now down through the sweeps that will bring them back to the first tight hairpin. Alfa, 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 and off in the dust is Hans Stuck. That's the 2nd time today he's gone off on the first lap of a race here at Magny Cours, but he's got back onto the track between the Mercedes of Kurt Tim and Ellen Law, and the rest of the field streaming round with at the back the silver Mercedes of Bernd Schneider, at the front the 2 red and white Alfas. And we see once again Stuck starting that moment, goes very, very wide indeed, runs onto the grass, 4-wheel drive, drags him through the kitty litter. There's Bernd Schneider moving up past the white Alfa of Jason Watt. So Schneider already passed 2 cars, and there's an Alfa slowing. That's Nicola Larini. Nicola Larini in trouble already. One of the Alfas seems to have shot its bolt. So now Fisichella up to 2nd. There's Giorgio Pianta looking unhappy in the pits with the rest of the Alfa team. Nicola Larini comes into the pits with that car. We don't know what his problem is, but certainly that's dropped him way out of the running. And still Dario Franchitti having a mighty race, holding off JJ Leto, and JJ Leto goes through on the inside. They're side by side through the hairpin. You can't do that at the hairpin, but Leto and Franchitti have, and Leto has gone ahead. Altsson looking at the outside. Franchitti fights back. Franchitti has the inside line. Franchitti retakes the place, and this of course is now 3rd place because we've lost Nicola Larini. The battle for 3rd led by Dario Franchitti of Scotland in the Mercedes, with the 2 Opels of Leto and Altsson trying all they know to get by, but Franchitti in very, very determined mood, and how he managed to fight off the challenge of Leto at the hairpin, I cannot imagine. Oliver Gavin, meanwhile, running strongly in his Opel. He's in 8th place. There's Franchitti, there's Leto, and there's Altsson in the yellow car. And we see again, as they went into the hairpin, Leto got a run down the inside. Franchitti decided to let him go instead of driving into the side of him, which a lot of ITC drivers might have done. And Hans Stuck on fire, and I think the front of the car is pretty badly damaged as well. Yes, there is some of the bodywork being dragged clear, and now we see what happens. From 11th place, Stuck comes all the way down the inside, hits the 8th placed Opel of poor Oliver Gavin. Gavin spins to a halt. Stuck's car is quite badly damaged and incidentally catches fire as well. That's got to be the end of Stuck's race, but Oliver Gavin seems to be able to get underway again. Here's that 3rd place battle now, and the 2 Opels have got past Dario Franchitti. It's Leto and Altsson and Franchitti, and you can see that Franchitti's Mercedes-Benz is scrabbling for grip as he tries to stay on terms with the 2 4-wheel drive Opels. JJ Leto 3rd, and now we see how it happened. Leto went down the inside of the hairpin one more time, but this time I think there was contact between those two cars, and that thump in the side of the Mercedes of Dario Franchitti put him off stroke. There you see it, bang at the back. That put him off his stroke sufficiently to allow not only Leto to get by, but also Alson to get a run down the side. Now we've got a battle for the lead once more. Giancarlo Fisichella attacking leader Nannini, JJ Leto third, but where's Uwe Alson? We've lost Uwe Alson. Dario Franchitti has got a yellow Opel behind him, but that's the car of Klaus Ludwig, and we've got Alson coming into the pits with gravel pouring off that car. He's obviously been off into the gravel, and the car seems to be operating all right, but he's coming into the pits, and whatever the problem was, we see it now, and it looked as though he missed his braking completely for that swerve at the beginning of the pit entrance lane. Once more we see it, he goes straight across the curbs, and I would hazard a guess that all is not well in the braking department of Uwe Alson's Opel. Here's Alex Wurz squeezing past on the inside of Stefano Modina's Alfa Romeo to take 6th place. And the front of Wurz's Opel looks somewhat battered. He's obviously had some fun elbowing his way up the field. But now at the front, Fisichella on the inside. Fisichella's taking the lead. That surely can't be according to Alfa Romeo team rules. Just briefly, Fisichella went into the lead before Alessandro Nannini was able to get back again. A little bit of fun and games at the hairpin. Are they putting on a show for the crowd, or is it Fisichella getting a little bit impatient with the way that Giorgio Pianta wants this race to work out? Meanwhile, up from the back of the grid, Bernd Schneider in the number 1 Mercedes. Remember, he's currently the runner-up in the championship. Manuel Reuter hasn't started the race, the championship leader, but Schneider will be concerned to try to hang on to this 2nd place in the championship, and ahead of him the 7th placed Alfa Romeo of Stefano Modena. Schneider having worked his way up from the back into 8th spot at the moment. And at the front, the battle still going on. Fisichella still pushing Alessandro Nannini, and Giorgio Pianta in the pits will be very concerned to know that the Alfa Romeo boys behave themselves as they come down into the hairpin for the final lap, get the power on, go over the start-finish line, look across at their pit signals in the Alfa Romeo pit, and there are the Alfa Romeo boys watching the whole thing go on, and Fisichella getting a little bit sideways, a little bit wild as they go through the final sweeps on this last lap. It's been Alfa Romeo 1, 2, 3 in the first race, and there's Pianta looking a little bit concerned. In fact, that's very much a slow it down, chaps. We see it in action, slow motion. Slow it down, chaps. We've had a 1, 2, 3 for Alfa Romeo in the first race, and we're going to get a 1, 2 in the second, provided nothing goes wrong. Alessandro Nannini, of course, a Grand Prix driver of note, did 4 seasons and 77 Grand Prix for Benetton before a terrible helicopter accident severed one of his hands. It was sewn back with microsurgery, and the man still has tremendous speed and stamina, as we've seen in the heat of the Magny Cours afternoon. Meanwhile, Bernd Schneider still pushing Stefano Modena. He's 8th. He wants at least to make it 7th and get a couple more points before this race is over. Although, by my reckoning, Bernd Schneider is going to lose his 2nd place in the ITC Championship today to the flying Alfa Romeo driver Alessandro Nannini. And as Schneider chases one Alfa Romeo, there are the 2 leading Alfas. Alessandro Nannini and Giancarlo Fisichella come down into the final hairpin. The checkered flag waves. Alessandro Nannini scores his 2nd win of the day. JJ Leto is 3rd, Dario Franchitti 4th, and Oliver Gavin takes 15th place, having restarted after his collision. And in the championship, Nannini is now 2nd to Reuter. Well, from France, we're travelling south to Alfa Romeo country, to the ITC's Italian rounds at Mugello. We'll see you there.